Every movie stunt you've ever cheered for was somebody's worst day on a job with no safety net. Tom Cruise trained for 106 skydives on a broken ankle just to get 3 minutes of footage. Jackie Chan slid down a burning pole, got second-degree burns on both hands, and was on a different set the same afternoon. And at the very bottom of this list, 3 people didn't make it home at all. This is what it actually costs to make movies you love. By the time we reach number 1, the word stunt might feel inadequate. Mission Impossible Fallout, the Halo jump. In Mission Impossible Fallout, Tom Cruise performs a military-grade Halo jump, which stands for High Altitude Low Orbit, at 25,000 feet over the UAE at dusk. The sequence runs a few minutes on screen. Getting it there took the better part of a year and 106 total jumps. Cruise performed every jump himself, no double or face replacement. Director Christopher McQuarrie needed the camera close enough to confirm that it was in fact Cruise. That required solving engineering problems that had never been solved before. Standard Halo gear covers most of the face, which was unacceptable for a franchise built on visible star performance, so the production built a custom helmet from scratch. Oxygen supply, integrated lighting system, pressure-resistant casing. Getting the lighting stable enough not to explode at altitude took weeks of testing alone. Then there was the wind tunnel, built in 12 weeks at Leavesden Studios, 20 feet wide, powered by 4 1-megawatt generators. The portable tunnel had been sourced first. It held 2 people. The sequence required 6 in the air simultaneously. Cruise told special effects supervisor Neil Corbould to build a bigger one. And he did. Cruise trained in that tunnel on a broken ankle, fractured during a rooftop chase earlier in the production. He was rolled in flat until the power came on. The original plan would have faked the jump at 12,000 feet. Cruise refused. Then the ankle injury forced a scheduling change that pushed the shoot to Abu Dhabi, where they finally accessed a plane capable of the real altitude. Skydiving coordinator Alan Hewitt said it plainly. Without the broken ankle, they would have faked it, and nobody wanted that. The Dark Knight, the semi-truck flip. In The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's crew flipped a real 18-wheeler on a real street in downtown Chicago with no CGI. Special effects supervisor Chris Corbould engineered a steel piston inside the truck, triggered by TNT at the base. But LaSalle Street sat above underground bank vaults and sewer infrastructure, leaving only 2 viable trigger points across a half-mile of road. Miss them, and 100 tons of pressure goes through the city's foundation. Stunt driver Jim Wilkie drove to the exact spot, pressed the button, and the truck rose 54 feet before crashing down, deviating 6 inches off course. Nolan shot it from 7 angles, 4 IMAX cameras, 2 VistaVision, and a 35mm, because a non-repeatable stunt demands total coverage. The only digital work in the entire sequence was removing the piston from the footage. Every other frame is real physics on a real street. The Dark Knight opened the same year as Iron Man, which launched Hollywood's full commitment to CGI-dominated action. Nolan went in the opposite direction and won. The truck flip stands as the high watermark of practical superhero filmmaking, a permanent argument that real events on camera produce a response that simulation just can't match. The Spy Who Loved Me, the Mount Asgard ski jump. By 1977, James Bond was in real trouble. The Man with the Golden Gun had posted the worst box office in the franchise's history. Producer Albert Broccoli found his answer in a whiskey advertisement in Playboy magazine, a skier leaping off a cliff in the Canadian Baffin Mountains. The man behind it was Rick Sylvester, an adventurer who had done similar jumps recreationally. He was unemployed when the call came. The plan? Send Sylvester to the top of Mount Asgard, a near vertical sheer face over 6,600 feet. Ski off the precipice, free fall, and open a parachute at the last moment. The second unit camped for weeks. Weather was catastrophic. London communication failed. When the clouds finally cleared, the window was literally minutes long. Second unit director John Glenn planted a red flag in the snow and told Sylvester over the radio, "Remember, you're James Bond." The helicopter cameraman missed the shot, panned too late. One other camera tracked Sylvester the entire way down, uncut. That was the only take that would ever exist. When the sequence played in theaters with a Union Jack parachute unfurling to the Bond theme, audiences reportedly broke into spontaneous applause worldwide. The Spy Who Loved Me became the franchise's biggest box office success to that point. One honest image, one take, one man off a real cliff. It did what no budget could fabricate. Tenet, the 747 crash. Christopher Nolan once again bought a real Boeing 747 and drove it into a building because it was apparently cheaper than CGI. When production for Tenet ran the numbers on the Oslo Freeport heist sequence, miniatures and visual effects came back costing millions. A decommissioned 747 from a salvage yard, engines already sold, airframes stripped to the shell, came in well under $100,000. The engines, sold back separately like a bad Lego set, recouped a significant portion of that. Nolan had originally planned on a 737, then he saw the 747 and told his line producer he wanted the bigger one. The aircraft was fitted with fake rotors, attached to tow ropes, and executed in one take by the same stuntman who had driven the truck in The Dark Knight. So, a guy with ice in his blood. When the story broke that Nolan had purchased a commercial aircraft because digital alternatives cost more, it sparked a genuine industry recalculation. Production designers and VFX supervisors publicly re-examined the assumption that CGI is always the efficient option. In an era of growing audience fatigue with digital spectacle, Tenet 747 was a provocation the industry has not finished answering. Police Story, the mall pole slide. Here is where the list stops being about scale and starts being about what a human body can do and endure. In Police Story, Jackie Chan leaps from a high mall floor onto a pole wrapped in decorative light bulbs and slides several stories to the ground. No wires, no safety net. The only contingency below was a car filled with candy. The lights were supposed to switch off if anything went wrong. They were not switched off. The bulbs burst. The pole heated under his grip. Every human instinct said to let go, but he didn't. He reached the ground with second-degree burns on both hands and a dislocated pelvis. He was on a different film set that same afternoon. Chan had been a stuntman before he was an actor, working on Bruce Lee's films in the early 1970s. His entire filmmaking philosophy rested on a single principle. The audience must see, without doubt, that what they're watching is real. No cutaways, no double in the wide shot, every reaction genuine because it is happening. The philosophy left a permanent mark on Hong Kong action cinema, and through directors like John Woo, on global action filmmaking. Chan made audiences understand the difference between simulated danger and lived danger, and that understanding permanently raised what action performance could even mean. Cliffhanger, plane-to-plane transfer. The Guinness Book of World Records named it the costliest aerial stunt ever performed, reportedly valued at $1 million, because the risk was precisely that measurable. British stuntman Simon Crane transferred between two aircraft in flight for Cliffhanger at altitude in -40-degree wind chill, wearing a Special Forces survival suit with a prosthetic head and hands layered on top, and a hidden parachute buried underneath all of it. In one test, a weighted rope snagged and flew free at 200 miles per hour. In another, the camera plane, explicitly told never to position behind Crane, ended up directly behind him. He narrowly avoided the engine. In the actual filmed take, the smaller jet came in fast and bounced Crane across the roof of the aircraft before he fell away. One take. Crane parachuted to safety. The outtakes, he said afterwards, are much more frightening than what's in the movie. The Cliffhanger transfer established an industry precedent for what would become formalized as controlled risk assessment, a documented calculation of exactly how dangerous a sequence is and what compensation is appropriate. It put a public dollar figure on human courage. That calculus now governs how high-risk sequences are budgeted and approved across the industry. GoldenEye, the dam bungee jump. For GoldenEye, stuntman Wayne Michaels stepped off the top of the Verschaska hydroelectric dam in Switzerland, 720 feet of concrete and a bungee cord. Single take, 6 cameras, trauma clinic on standby below. The dam's concave surface created an upward wind vortex threatening to swing Michaels into the wall on the rebound. His dive angle had to be calculated precisely enough to track away from the surface going down and manage the return. The Oxford Stunt Factory, the university group that commercialized modern bungee jumping, was brought in to consult. They tried testing with a dummy. When they couldn't source one in time, they dropped a tree trunk instead. On the morning of the jump, Michaels caught the eye of an Italian crane operator nearby. The man crossed himself. You realize, Michaels recalled, it's quite a crazy life you lead. No digital effects, one jump, all cameras worked. The sequence led GoldenEye's theatrical trailers and became the film's defining image before audiences had seen a frame of Brosnan's performance. Proof that a perfectly executed practical stunt could function as its own marketing event. Clearly a lesson Tom Cruise learned over and over and over again. Project A, the Clock Tower Fall. Project A contains Jackie Chan's most historically significant stunt. He climbs a flagpole, moves onto a clock tower, hangs from the clock hands, and then falls through 2 thin canvas awnings to the ground. He performed it multiple times. Real spinal damage resulted, and he climbed again. The stunt is a deliberate homage to Harold Lloyd, who appears shortly on this list, and that context matters. Chan was not performing for thrill value. He was consciously working inside a lineage of physical performance stretching back to the 1920s, acknowledging that the tradition demanded a standard that could not be faked. That awareness set a benchmark across Hong Kong filmmaking that later found its Western equivalent in Tom Cruise. The understanding that an actor's body in real jeopardy is not separate from the performance, but is the performance. The Great Escape, the motorcycle fence jump. Strip away everything, no computer modeling or elaborate engineering, just a motorcycle, a fence strung with barbed wire, and physics at speed. Stuntman Bud Eakins performed the jump for Steve McQueen in The Great Escape. McQueen was insurance barred from doing it himself. However, second unit director Robert Relia claimed McQueen executed the identical jump on his own time just to prove he could. No cameras were rolling though. The significance is the purity. No infrastructure behind it. The wire is real. The speed is real. The consequence of clipping that wire is very real. At a moment when Hollywood was learning that genuine danger could be a storytelling tool, that audiences respond to footage of actual risk in a way they just can't to its imitation, this fence jump became the template. Short, direct, no cutaway, no ambiguity. That directness shaped action filmmaking for decades. The Man with the Golden Gun, the spiral car jump. In Thailand, stunt driver Lauren Bumps Willard executed a mathematically perfect 360-degree barrel roll across a river for the Man with the Golden Gun in one take, in front of 100 European journalists flown in on a rented 747 specifically to watch. The stunt was designed by Raymond McHenry using computer modeling of single-vehicle accident physics, decades before digital pre-visualization existed. It required hitting a curved ramp at exactly 48 miles per hour, confirmed by 2 onboard tachometers, with the driver balanced precisely between the axles. Willard had never driven the AMC Hornet before the day of the shoot. Director Guy Hamilton's logic: hit 48 miles per hour, trust the math, and hang on. After watching, Roger Moore told the stunt team, "You fellas make me look good." This is one of the earliest examples of mathematical modeling as the foundation for a live-action sequence, a principle that now underpins virtually every major stunt in modern production. Hard-Boiled, a hospital shootout. John Woo shot a nearly 3-minute unbroken take through a hospital corridor in Hard-Boiled, with live explosives, squibs, gunfire, and controlled fire detonating inches from performers. Behind an elevator door, the crew had roughly 30 seconds to reset the entire set, re-rig charges, replace squibs, clear debris, before the camera came back out. They passed through the same location twice. The edit is seamless. Before digital compositing made long takes reproducible in post, this was genuine. One camera, one corridor, actual danger, and a crew running on pure adrenaline behind closed doors. The choreography of action as performance that flows through The Matrix, through Rodriguez, through Tarantino, it all starts in this corridor. Apollo 13, Real Zero G. Ron Howard convinced NASA to let him put his Apollo 13 cast inside the KC-135, the parabolic aircraft used to train actual astronauts and capture genuine weightlessness on film. The production flew 612 parabolic flights, each generating roughly 25 seconds of real zero gravity. Cast and crew took a cocktail of scopolamine and dexedrine before each flight. Kevin Bacon was vomited on mid-shot and noted with detachment that floating vomit is an experience without parallel. Howard's argument was very specific. Wire rigs that simulate weightlessness look like wire rigs. The uncontrolled drift of a real body in real zero gravity cannot be manufactured. Apollo 13 received an Academy Award nomination for visual effects for a film that relied less on computers than almost any other major release that year, largely winning its effects recognition through real physics. Howard's approach reignited an industry argument that audiences feel the difference between real and simulated even when they cannot explain why, and that argument has only grown more urgent since. Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, the Burj Khalifa climb. Tom Cruise climbed the exterior of the world's tallest building for real in Ghost Protocol, 2,722 feet, suction gloves, Dubai hundreds of feet below, and no solid ground anywhere near him. The logistics cascaded from the start. Permits are required to drill into the Burj's exterior walls. 35 windows were broken during setup. A harness cut off circulation to Cruise's lower body, meaning every minute on the glass counted down toward numbness. Filming helicopters had 30-minute windows. IMAX film ran fast, and every roll was physically flown to Los Angeles for development before director Brad Bird could confirm anything was usable. When the first safety coordinator told Cruise the stunt was too dangerous as planned, Cruise found a new one. The stunt coordinator who oversaw the actual shoot calculated that during a cable malfunction recreated in the film, there was enough time for Cruise to text him and for the message to arrive before impact. Bullet, the birth of the modern car chase. Before Bullet in 1968, movie car chases were a theater and everybody knew it. Director Peter Yates and Steve McQueen put a real Mustang and a real Dodge Charger into actual San Francisco streets and let them run at real speed, over hills, through intersections, with cinematographer William Fraker shooting from inside and outside both vehicles simultaneously. The camera shook because the road was uneven, the cars bottomed out because the hills were real. 10 minutes that produced a response in audiences that no car sequence had generated before. The industry impact was immediate and total. Every serious car chase film drew from the template that Bullet created. McQueen's Mustang did not just produce a moment, it produced a genre standard. Ford eventually built a commemorative Mustang edition in its honor. One practical decision in 1968 built a legacy that never stopped paying dividends. The Dark Knight Rises, mid-air plane hijack. Christopher Nolan opened The Dark Knight Rises with real aircraft, real altitude, and real stuntmen performing choreographed sequences on a suspended fuselage in open sky. Helirig's Super Puma physically held the fuselage using a sling while 4 stuntmen rappelled down and worked the scene. A second sequence required releasing the fuselage mid-air while retaining 2 performers inside, creating the extraction effect that closes the opening. Over 100 people coordinated the shoot in rural Scotland with no direct electricity access. Everything was locked before anyone left the ground, because in the air, improvisation is not an option. Opening a $250 million blockbuster with practical aircraft sequences sent a very clear message to an industry building increasingly on digital foundations. Audiences feel the difference between gravity and its simulation. That feeling is not a technical detail, it is the entire point. Safety last. Hanging from the clock. In 1923, the legend Harold Lloyd dangled from a clock face on the side of a 12-story building in Los Angeles for safety last. 1 platform, 1 floor below. That was the complete safety infrastructure. No wires or crash mat, and definitely no digital augmentation. The image became one of the most reproduced in cinema history, and is the root from which every vertical sequence on this list grows. The dam, the skyscraper, the clock tower in Project A, the Burj Khalifa, all of it traces back to this man, this clock, and this building. What makes Lloyd's achievement more remarkable is that he performed his own stunts despite having lost his right thumb and forefinger in 1919 when a prop bomb exploded in his hand. He wore a prosthetic glove on camera for years, and no one knew for decades. Safety last established the foundational principle that the audience's awareness of genuine risk is not incidental to the experience. Rather, it is the experience. The understanding never left cinema, it just found different forms across different eras. Steamboat Bill Jr., The Falling House. A 2-ton house front fell directly onto Buster Keaton in Steamboat Bill Jr. He survived because the open window passed around him with approximately 2 inches of clearance on either side. His shoes were nailed to the ground so that he would not flinch. 3 men on the roof cut the ropes on cue. Keaton stood on his mark and did not move. Cameramen, electricians, and extras prayed as we shot that scene, he recalled. I don't mind saying I did a little praying myself. The biographical context haunts the footage. Keaton was at a personal collapse, alcoholism, a disintegrating marriage, and the imminent closure of his independent production company. Some historians have theorized that his willingness to stand under that wall was the recklessness of a man who no longer cared what happened to him. Whatever drove it, the footage exists. 2 tons of real material, 1 small window, no second attempt even planned, and the image has endured for nearly a century. A permanent question about what the camera is actually for. The Flight of the Phoenix, The Fatal Crash. The Flight of the Phoenix is a 1965 survival film about men rebuilding a plane from wreckage in the Sahara. Its greatest production tragedy mirrored the subject almost exactly. Stunt pilot Paul Mantz flew the Tall Mantz Phoenix P-1, built from salvaged components for the film. described by multiple crew members as a machine made of wreckage. On July 8, 1965, Mance brought it in for a landing. A skid caught hard ground. He applied full throttle to correct. The fuselage broke apart and cartwheeled. Stuntman Bobby Rose survived with a broken pelvis and a shattered shoulder. Mance was killed instantly. Before the shoot, Mance had made one request. He wanted to wear the same soft-brimmed hat as Jimmy Stewart instead of a crash helmet, a detail of authenticity for the camera. The medical consensus is that the helmet would likely have saved his life. Mance's death forced the industry's hand on aerial stunt safety. Studios began formalizing pre-production safety reviews. Stunt coordinators gained the authority to halt sequences deemed unacceptably dangerous. Mance did not die so the industry would improve, but his death contributed to an industry that eventually, imperfectly, did. Apocalypse Now: War Without a Net. Apocalypse Now is a film about soldiers losing their minds in a jungle. Its production was a controlled experiment in exactly that. Francis Ford Coppola shot the film in the Philippines with real military helicopters and live ordnance. A typhoon destroyed the sets. Lead actor Harvey Keitel was dismissed mid-production. His replacement, Martin Sheen, suffered a real heart attack on location. His brother covered shots during recovery. Marlon Brando arrived unprepared and unread. The shoot ran 37 weeks over schedule. Coppola mortgaged his personal assets to keep it alive. The film's opening sequence was shot on Sheen's birthday. He was genuinely drunk. He smashed a real mirror with his bare fist, bled on camera, and just kept going. Coppola left the cameras rolling because what was happening was exactly what he needed, even as it meant filming a man genuinely deteriorating. He would tell Martin, "I want all the evil, the violence, the hatred in you to come out," a crew member recalled. You tell that to a guilt-ridden Irish Catholic, and he hasn't a chance. Apocalypse Now is the industry's most extreme argument that physical and psychological safety are not obstacles to art. They are preconditions of it. It produced a masterpiece, but it nearly destroyed everyone involved. And finally, the Twilight Zone movie, The Helicopter Tragedy. At 2:30 in the morning on July 23, 1982, actor Vic Morrow and two child extras, Micah Din Lee, age 7, and Renee Shin Chen, age 6, were killed during the filming of Twilight Zone, the movie. Director John Landis was shooting a Vietnam War sequence in which Morrow's character rescues two children from an American military attack. A helicopter was positioned directly over the performers. Controlled explosions detonated nearby. One struck the tail rotor. The helicopter lost control. Its main rotor came down on all three. Morrow and Lee were decapitated. Chen was crushed. The children were on set illegally. California law prohibited minors from working past 6:30 in the evening, and it was 2:30 in the morning. Landis had personally approved their employment. He knew the law, and he proceeded regardless. Involuntary manslaughter charges followed. The trial ran 69 days. 71 witnesses testified. Landis admitted on the stand to violating child labor law. His defense was that the accident was unforeseeable. All defendants were acquitted. The film was released in 1983. Vic Morrow's footage was included. What followed was the most significant transformation of on-set safety regulation in Hollywood history. Not because the industry chose it, but because it had no other option. New laws governed child employment, the handling of live explosives near performers, and aircraft proximity to actors. Workers gained formal protections to raise safety concerns without losing their jobs. Productions became subject to external safety review for high-risk sequences. These changes did not come from conscience. They came from a courtroom and from three people who did not get to go home. The Twilight Zone accident ends this list, not because it's the most spectacular or technically ambitious stunt in cinema history. It's here because it is the most honest answer to the question every other entry on this list circles. What is the real cost of the image? Every stunt here was someone's answer. Some paid with burns, some with broken bones, some have years of recovery. These three paid with everything. Every image on this list comes from someone standing at the edge of something genuinely dangerous and choosing to go through with it. Skier in the Arctic with one take left, a stuntman crossing himself before a 700-foot drop, an actor on a broken ankle being rolled into a wind tunnel, all of them doing the work of spectacle in the hopes of making something immortal. If you like the sort of deep dive content into the craft that is cinema, let us know in the comments below. And also, let us know which entry hit you the hardest. And if there's a stunt you think belongs on this list, make a case for it below. Until next time, this video is made by movie fans, for movie fans.